Welcome. In this tutorial, we're going to talk all about the emotional compatibility of lighting and the topic that your subject is discussing. You see, lighting is all about emotion. And if your subject is talking about something emotional, your lighting should support that. For example, if you have a grandmother talking about the love for her kitten, you probably shouldn't use lighting that looks like this. But if someone's talking about a traumatic experience they've gone through, this type of lighting would go a long way in supporting that. So in this tutorial, we're going to break down 4 different types of lighting setups to give you maximum flexibility to complement the emotional undertones of your subject's conversation. Now for these first 2 setups, we're going to focus mainly on the fill light. Your fill light is kind of your superpower in your 3-point lighting setup because variations of intensity in your fill can go a long way to communicate varying degrees of emotion. For example, in this first setup, we have what is called a low fill lighting setup, where the fill is still turned on, it's just dimmed a little bit. And again, you can dim by either turning part of the light off or dimming it down or pulling it further into the distance. And with a low fill, you start to achieve more shadow on the far side of the face. And that shadow is what starts to communicate the emotion. In the second setup, we've completely turned off the fill light. And by turning off the fill light, we've brought in a full amount of shadow on that fill. Now you start to lose data in that part of their face, but that starts to create this emotional point of interest. There's mystery here. There's a loss of information which could start to mirror the intensity of their conversation. Now you have to be careful with where your key light is placed in this setup because if it's too far over to their side, you're going to create what's called hatchet face. Hatchet face is normally not sought after in terms of the design because it creates a really nasty line that separates the halves of their face, usually right down their nose. So you generally want to bring your key light a bit more front and center if you're going to completely remove your fill. That way you don't achieve a 50-50 half dark, half light face. In this third setup, we're going to ratchet up the emotion with a lighting setup called cameo lighting. We see cameo lighting a lot in an interview where someone's discussing something that is truly intense, a traumatic experience, something that they've never told anyone before. The cameo lighting effectively makes them float in a dark void. The shadow has completely enveloped the background, leaving a lit subject floating in this kind of ethereal void environment. And by doing this, you have brought 100% of the focus of your viewer to your subject. There's direct engagement because there's no external distraction. To achieve this type of lighting, we want to make sure that we flag off or reduce any spill of light. And spill is just when light starts to reach other parts of your set that you didn't intentionally want it to. You can flag that off using cardboard. If you have different barn doors on your lights, you could close them off. But you want to make sure that there is absolutely no light touching the background of your set. So you can see how we've just ratcheted up the no fill scenario. We have no fill, creating that really nice rich shadow, but now we've gotten rid of the background, allowing that shadow just to kind of morph into its environment. While this setup it's one of my favorites to achieve, don't overuse it. This is truly reserved for those intense, emotionally heavy topics. This fourth setup is really fun, but it's also one of the rarest you'll use. It's called silhouette lighting, and we've all seen this. We've all watched an interview on like the History Channel or Discovery Channel of a former CIA agent who wants to share their story, but you can't see their features. And so their voice just kind of starts to vocode.
And as they talk and share their story, their voice changes. And we can't see who they are. We can't make out their voice.
But man, their story is really interesting. This is called silhouette lighting. This is the opposite of cameo lighting in terms of the setup. So in cameo lighting, we got rid of all the light spilling onto the environment to make sure that the subject was well lit. Well, in silhouette lighting, we want to do the opposite. We want all the light to be focused on the background, reducing almost all light touching your subject. You can achieve this just by pulling all of your lights behind the chair, the threshold of where your subject is sitting. It puts them entirely in darkness, putting all the light on the background. Now, you can use a hair light creatively in this setup to create a really nice rim definition, just enough to you can see if they have a beard, you can see if they're wearing glasses, or you can see what type of hair they have, but not enough to start to give detail to their face. So using your hair light here, your hair light kind of becomes the star in silhouette lighting, which is a fun opportunity for you to kind of flex your creativity with where your hair light can be placed. So in summary, we just achieved 4 different types of lighting setups using our same 3 lights from our 3-point lighting: low fill, no fill, cameo, and silhouette lighting. Use these as tools, as emotional tools to further tell the story of your subject. Match up the type of lighting to the emotional intensity of your subject's stories. You'd be amazed how far this will go. Lastly, don't underestimate the power of a single light. This lighting right now is just one light. It's just our key. So don't be afraid. Turn off all the lights. Bring in one and see what you can achieve with minimal lighting, and then bring in the others. But this shows you the power of 3 lights to achieve a variety of different looks. See you later.